to my genealogy experiment. My name is Michelle Anderson. It is, or was, a beautiful sunny day here, and I hope that the sun is shining on you wherever you may be. As always, you're probably going to hear my dogs, and I'm really sorry. They are a bit loco. They see me get out the mic and plug it in, and they think that I'm talking to them. You know, they ignore me every other minute of the day. So why they can't ignore me now is I just don't understand. But I'm going to ignore them, and we're just going to hope for the best. Have you ever thought about starting your family's genealogy research? Or perhaps some in your family has already started it? When I started, all I needed was a 3-ring binder. And I still use a 3-ring binder. I have found that it works best for me, but I use it a little differently than I did when I first started. I think everyone should take and compile their own genealogy. 1, you're putting information down for future family generations to reference. And 2, it turns out that it's a lot of fun to do. You want to start with yourself. If you don't have kids, or even if you do, you can start with yourself. You are number 1. Say it with me. I am number 1. Good job. Now, write down all your information. Your birth date, your baptism date, your confirmation date, your graduation dates, your anything that is important. Your marriage date. If you were divorced, you're going to want to write your divorce date. If you're remarried, you're going to want to write down your spouse's name and when you got remarried. Just write everything down. Now you can take it a step further and write down your jobs, your job history. When I look at census information, it's very interesting to see what people list as their occupation and if it changes from census year to census year. Sometimes it's just those people taking the census have a list of categories, and perhaps your category isn't on their list, so they have to make something up or write something down. Now, don't forget to write down your identifiers. That's the color of your hair, of your eyes. Are you tall? Are you short? Are you stout? Are you slender? This will help others think about who you are in case they don't have a photograph to reference. Now we can move on to your parents. If you are number 1, that makes your father number 2 and your mother number 3. For some reason, the men are always the even numbers and the women are always the odd numbers. It makes referencing further numbers very easy to do because your father's parents are going to be numbers 4 and 5. Your mother's parents are going to be number 6 and 7. So it makes it really easy to just go on and on and on in this manner. When I made my master ancestor list, I listed my children as number 1. Because to me, they are number 1, right? And that meant my husband is number 2 and I am number 3. And his parents were number 4 and number 5. My parents are number 5 and number 6. And it just keeps going. And my husband has siblings, but I don't include the siblings on the master list. I do something a little bit different. I have made a digital file, a folder file for each of my individuals on my master ancestor list. So in the file for my father-in-law, he is number 4. I have a folder also for my husband's oldest brother and his middle brother. And they are titled 4A and 4B. Now, my husband's oldest brother has children, so I give them another number. So it's 4A1 and 4A2. It sounds a lot confusing, but when you start working with it, it's actually very, very easy. And you just go on and on. You double your numbers up. You keep men always even and women always odd. And it is a great tool to see where you already have information and where you need to look for information. My list is pretty good. I can get up to about number 63 without missing someone. From there, though, I start missing names. And giving the spaces names turns out to be really fun for me. I can see that my Civil War ancestor is number 62. And my Revolutionary veteran is number 196. One of my oldest families is from Germany, and I only know the name of the father. He is number 496. My oldest family, my highest numbered family, is that of George Flanagan or Flanningham. Depends. I've seen it both ways. And his wife, Mary Lyric. They are numbers 888 and 889. Looking at my numbers realizes that I have a lot to do, and I challenge each and every one of you to also make a master ancestor list and let me know how it goes. But since I'm here to talk about my blogs, I better get on with it. On the Jordans and Birds blog, I have a photo of my grandparents, Bill and Jean Jorden, with my brother Mark and I. Now, that might not seem like it's really that big a deal, but for us to be in a photo with just them was not normal, as there was always other people in photos with you. We are a large family, and while that is really fun, it's also very special when you find pictures with just one person and you in them. So this photo is a treasure to me. Bill was the only grandfather that I knew. My paternal grandfather had died when I was 3 years old, and I have very few memories of him. Bill received all my grandpa hugs, all my grandpa jokes, all my grandpa laughs. To me, he was the inventor of our family. He could make anything out of wood, and he made wonderful gadgets and tools for us to use that we still have in our lives today. To me, he is as large as life itself and just as wonderful. He was able to appreciate the birds and the trees and teach us all how to fillet a fish. I will never forget when he told me that I had not hit the fish hard enough on the head and I'd have to do it again. I miss his fried fish. I could go on and on about what makes Bill Jorden an amazing grandfather, but I'd just be preaching to the choir. They tell me he was also wonderful on the job, but to me, the best place that Bill shined was with his family. I'm going to try to say this next part without crying, because every time I went to write it, I cried. But when I was 10, I asked my parents if I could be called Shelley. I knew a girl in school with that name, and I thought it would be cool and easier to spell. My mom said if I had wanted you to be called Shelley, I would have named you that. So, no fun names for me. But Bill, he had a nickname for me. He always called me Shell. He made me feel special. And to date, there have been only about maybe 3 people who call me that. My grandfather, my brother, and my husband. Well, I guess my nieces and nephews call me that too. Now, the last time that I saw him, he could not hear very well. But once he figured out that it was me, he'd pat me on the cheek and say, "Shell's here." He is still as large as life to me and just as special. My grandmother made everyone feel unique and seen. I do not know how she did it with 12 grandchildren, but she did. When she would come and visit with us, she would tell us the news of our cousins, what they had been up to, but they weren't what she focused on when she was with us. When she was with you, she focused on you. She knew what we all liked to do and made sure that we would have that to do with her when we spent time with her. I have never met anyone to equal her in games, especially cards. And words, oh man, Jean excelled at any game, puzzle, or teaser that had words in it. I really like Boggle. I do. But I find myself not really wanting to play it because when I would play it with Jean, she would find so many more words than I could. And when I go to try to play it, I just know that there's more words that I'm not seeing. So it's hard for me to play. I know that my family feels the same as I do, that we would love one more opportunity to be in Bill and Jean's presence. But for now, our memories and photos are going to have to do. Until that day, we are once more together with them and we can tell them thank you for making us feel so special. Now, over in the Miller garden, I have a photo of Kermit Miller and his sister Maye Miller Motter. I just love photos with Kermit in them. Here we have him and Maye in Adeline outside their mother Lydia's home. Now, there's a lot to focus on in this photo. My eye is first drawn to their hands. They hold the hands very similarly, but with different hands on top. And I really wonder what Maye has in her hands. It's either maybe a hanky or a tissue or maybe a piece of paper. And then my eye is drawn to her cute outfit with a pin at the neck and strap pumps that I think are open-toed, but when I go to zoom in, I can't be sure. Finishing off her look is the cute hat that sits just there on the back of her head. Now, complementing Lydia's look is her brother Kermit. He is smartly dressed in a suit and tie with a nice dress shoes, and about the only thing that's missing on him is maybe a hat. Men have it so much easier when dressing up. But what's not missing in this photo are traces of snow. My yard looks precisely like this currently, but it must not be too cold as they're taking photos with the photo without coats. Of her 4 children, Maye and Kermit were the only of Lydia's children who lived close to her. So I'm sure this photo is to commemorate a holiday, a birthday, possibly a special gathering when they were able to get together as family and just enjoy each other's company. Over on the 6 Degrees of Anderson page, I present to you Charles Fredrick Weber. I found his photo among the photos that we were lucky to get when Charlotte passed away. I knew the Webers were Charlotte's family, but I had not done much research into the family besides her father, Arthur. So, who are the Webers? Wait a minute, did I just say research? It has been a long time since I've done any family research. I canceled my ancestry.com subscription in 2022 as I had not been using it and felt it was wasteful to have a subscription that I wasn't using. It's pretty pricey. Now, I was going to tell you all about my ancestry.com situation, but I'm going to hold on to that until next week. All I'm going to say for now is that I have resubscribed to ancestry.com and I started looking for Charles. And while I found him, I'm just not sure how I feel about it. Charles Fredrick Weber was born June 23rd, 1879 to John and Emma Weber in Jackson, Michigan. He was the 4th of 5 children born to John and Emma, and Charles is the younger brother of Charlotte's father, Albert, the 3rd child born to John and Emma. He has a sister named Emma who was born in 1872. She is the oldest, then comes Albert, then a brother also named John, then Charles, and then a sister named Estelle. I will be trying to make blogs, postings for each of them in turn as I find information on them. John Weber was born in Germany on December 27th, 1845. I have tried to say the name of the town that he was born in, and I've had to record it about 4 times, so we're just going to move on and just say that he was born in Germany. I do not know when he immigrated to the United States, but I hope that I can locate that information in the National Archives. In the 1880 census, John indicated that his occupation was that of butcher. But in a city directory in 1890, he lists his occupation as that of farmer. His wife Emma was born on August 18th, 1854 in Ohio. After her death, though, her children always reported in the census that she was born in Germany. I wonder if they assumed that their mother had been born there because that was where their father had been born. Emma died at the age of 31 on May 8th, 1885. And John Weber died 6 years later at age 55 on April 25th, 1891. A fire in 1921 destroyed almost all of the 1890 census records, so we do not know what John might have reported on that 1890 census. So at 6 years of age, Charles was now without a mother. His sister Emma left school and stayed at home and took care of her siblings. By the time he was 12, his father had also died. Through the years, I found Charles had had many occupations. When he was 20 and should have been listed as an adult on the 1900 census, they recorded his age as 10 years old. In 1910, at age 30, Charles was recorded as being a timekeeper for an auto shop. I'm not so sure what all that this job might have included, but I'm assuming he did the bookwork for the auto shop. In 1920, at age 40, Charles is recorded as being a bookkeeper for an office with seal products. In 1930, at age 50, he is also recorded as being a bookkeeper for a construction department. Now, the 1940 census information was very interesting. In that census, they requested information for the previous year, which would have been 1939. And at age 60, Charles indicated that he had earned no money and worked no weeks in 1939. Their street address is handwritten on the margins of the census and written as Francis. By the time I reached the 1950 census, I thought for sure that Charles' working days were concluded, but he listed he worked 40 hours a week, and his occupation was secretary, and his job was at the Masonic Lodge. The 1950 census was also interesting in that both he and his oldest sibling, Emma, whom he had lived with his whole life, marked that they had never been married. I also found it very interesting that Charles only ever lived at one address for most of his life, that of 310 Francis. This street is now called Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, and where their house once stood is now a parking lot. According to the U.S. Death Index, Charles died on February 18, 1977, just about 2.5 years short of being 100 years old. He is buried at the Mount Evergreen Cemetery there in Jackson, Michigan, and he's buried alongside his parents, his brother John, and his sister Emma. While it seems like I found out a lot about Charlotte's Uncle Charles, I feel that I didn't find much at all, because I believe there was so much more to Charles Weber than living in the same town all his life and being a bookkeeper. Hopefully one day we will know more, but until then, Uncle Charles is a complete mystery. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you have enjoyed your time with me as much as I have enjoyed talking to you. Please make sure you're subscribed, and feel free to share this with anyone you know who might enjoy my ramblings about my family. Join me each week as I discuss those photos I posted on the family blogs and maybe other things as well, such as my journey with ancestry.com. We will see where that genealogy road takes us. My name is Michelle Anderson. Thank you for listening. I am the link to the past and the bridge to the future. Have a great day.